So your ego, yourself, is going to start to take on the shape of these things. All right? So now you're going to start to look like, and I'm going to draw this out. You're going to start to look like this crazy creature that looks like this. And you may think I'm dragging this out, but I think this is going to be very instructive. I'm hoping that it lets you know how I kind of see people. I'll try to hurry this along. You got your ego all wrapped around these things like this. This is what you look like. This is what you look like to me, by the way. You look like this. When I see somebody who's all wrapped up in their ego, that's what I see. When I see a Christian who's all wrapped up in their ego, that's what they look like to me. Something like that. I see something that is something like that immediately right off the bat. Okay? Now I'm gonna draw something for you. I'm gonna ask you to look at this and don't read it. Look at this and don't read it. Okay? I'm writing something down for you. What am I writing? You'll find out. Now I could have made a slide on this, but here, look at this, but don't read it, okay? Can you do that for me? Look at that and don't read it. You can't do it, can you? Just having a conversation with my wife about this concept earlier. People say, oh, you look at people, you're psychoanalyzing people all the time. No, when you gain literacy in certain domains, you just can't help read what's being written, what's being communicated. You just can't help read what's being communicated. So when I look at somebody who is all in their ego, when I look at a provisionist or a Calvinist, I see this clearly, loud and clear. Loud and clear, I see this oddly shaped, weird thing where someone has their identity all wrapped around all this nonsense. And that tells me a couple of things. It tells me that they are attached in having mode to all these things. Let me bring that to the front there. I don't have to ask, you see. It tells me they're attached, they're in having mode, and it tells me that they have an external locus of authority. It tells me they don't have any value or worth in and of themselves that they can perceive, and they're constantly having to gain value for their own identity by latching onto things outside of themselves because they don't know who they are. They constantly have to do this. Now your biggest sin, okay? Biggest sin of commission is being attached attachment to these doctrines, okay? And feeling more moral for supporting and defending such things. If you feel like you're more moral because you are defending the character of God and your particular view of creation, the Trinity, all that. Now, there's nothing wrong with being curious and wanting to know and searching and researching. When you become attached and identified with, and you have it in having mode, and you've stopped exploration mode, and you've made up your mind about a particular thing of any of this stuff, okay? When you do this, okay? what you don't know what you're doing. You become attached to these doctrines, and you are feeling more moral for supporting and defending these things. If you need any example of that, follow J.D. Martin and look at his posts on Facebook. He has a very high opinion of himself and his own morality because of how wonderfully he supports, defends, and follows the rules of all these things. Okay? He has a very high opinion of his own morality because he has the correct doctrine on these things. Now, he would never say it in those terms, but that's exactly what's going on, and it's undeniable for anybody that says it. Somebody said in the comments, this stuff is interesting to me. It's freeing not having to have a paradigm. Now, I cannot stress this to you enough. But if you are attached to these things and you feel more moral for having them, you will leave in your wake people who are traumatized, hurt, disoriented, lack agency, and become cynical, nihilistic, resentful. I cannot stress this enough. I know you can't see it. You can't see it. You think that being correct on all of these things, which the Bible never tells you to strive for correctness on these things. So I don't know why you're doing it. I don't know why I did it. I don't know why. The Bible never told us to be correct on these things. You know, the Pharisees and the Sadducees were both considered apostate. By the time Jesus shows up, they're both off base. And guess what? They were constantly squabbling and trying to be the correct person on all this stuff. Didn't help them. It's not going to help you any more than it helped them. It's not going to do it. And you will. This is not optional. You can't avoid this. You can't do it right and this not happen. You will leave in your wake, okay, your kids, your grandkids, your Sunday school class, the people you mentored, the people you played basketball with. Okay? You will leave in your wake people who are traumatized, hurt, disoriented, who lack agency, are cynical, nihilistic, and resentful. There may even be a delay effect. There could be, maybe your kids carry this on. Okay? Maybe they carry it on. Maybe they keep it going to give you a simulacrum of success, to make you feel like you have been successful. Look, my kids are in church. They're serving God. They're loving the Lord. Until you hear a news story about what they did with the pool boy when they were on vacation. I mean, this stuff happens all the time. People hiding stuff. They look so good on the front. What do I want you to do? What I want you to do, so when it comes to ego work, I want you to do some meditating. Okay? There's a couple things you want to have. You want to have beginner's mind. You want to use first principles thinking. And you want to be oriented toward transformation, not answers. Do you understand me on that? You want to be oriented toward transformations. Transformation, not answers. Okay? So when I study Scripture, I'm not trying to get the correct doctrine of the atonement. I'm trying to contemplate how this changes my mind toward God. The atonement was not designed to change God's mind toward us. It's designed to change our mind about God. And I want you to ask yourself, I want you to meditate. I want you to close your eyes. You don't have to do it right now, but I want you to close your eyes and I want you to think of your relationship with this doctrine and ask yourself, am I attached to this? If somebody were to negate this doctrine, somebody were to negate the character of God to me, what would I start to feel in my body? Okay? How would that feel? Would I feel like I need to defend something? Would I feel indignant? Would I feel like I need to debate or prove them wrong? Or shut them down? Or destroy them? You know, like all these, Ben Shapiro destroys so-and-so. What I feel like, if you feel like that, and you got to be honest with yourself, then you have to realize that's part of your ego, and you need to get out of this attachment to having mode and focus on being in awareness and possibility mode toward that thing. And let it go. Let it go. If it goes away, you're still here. If you go away, it's still there. Let it go. Send nature, whatever you think about, all these things. And not just these things. Maybe get this list. What is this? This is simply the table of contents of Grudem's Systematic Theology, 2nd edition. That's all it is. What you see on the screen is just the table of contents. It's all the doctrine that's talked about in systematic theology. Think about how you feel about these things. Miracles, prayer. Am I a cessationist? Am I not a cessationist? It's not like there's a correct answer. It's a way of being. Am I going to be attached to a particular view? I must defend cessationism. I must defend continuationism. Talking about the sign gifts, speaking in tongues, healing, all that kind of stuff. If you feel strongly about either one of those, that's your ego. Okay? And when you run your mouth, you look like this to me. You look like that to God, probably. And I'm not trying to equate my vision with God's vision, but I'm just trying to say that you don't realize how much you stink to other people. You don't realize how much it's like if I were to try to talk about mathematics to Eric Weinstein, okay, who's a mathematician, I might think I sound smart to myself, but I'd sound like a blooming idiot to him. I'm reading a book right now that says that one of the biggest hindrances toward knowing, toward wisdom, isn't ignorance, but the false belief that you already know. and that's what this stuff does. It gives you the false belief that you already know. I have the truth of these things. And guess what? As long as you think that, as long as you think you know, as long as you think you're correct, you will not cultivate wisdom. You can't do it. There's no workaround. There's no way to cultivate wisdom when you think that you're right about these things, that you have to defend these things. So meditate and ask yourself, go down the list of these doctrines. Go down the list of these doctrines and ask how you feel about these and practice. Practice letting go of attachment. Practice it being not something that you have. I don't have this doctrine. Practice it. Practice letting go. Satan and demons, prayers, miracles, creation, God in 3 persons, the Trinity, creation of man, the atonement, the offices of Christ, all this stuff, the power of the church, the purity and unity of the church, church government, baptism, worship. Should we or should we not worship in this way? Practice letting all that stuff go. Practice not being attached to it. Practice not identifying with it, okay? Practice it in your meditation. And then when you're talking to people, you want to practice being the person who has let go. I've always supported eternal security all my life. Now I'm standing face to face or across the keyboard with somebody who's just absolutely lambasting eternal security as the worst thing ever. Okay? You need to be able to respond to that the exact same way you would respond to somebody criticizing the quarterback of the football team that you're not rooting for. When you can feel, when you can start to sense the same bodily sensation that when someone attacks the thing that you are attached to or used to be attached to, When you can sense that that has gone down to zero, that's a good indication that you have actually transcended the ego on that matter. When you can take criticism, when you can take negation of these things that you used to be attached to, and your heart rate doesn't rise, your opinion of that person doesn't change, you don't feel the need to defend, and this is a big deal, you are actually curious of what that person has to say. It's a huge deal. You're actually curious, genuinely curious of what they have to say. That is a pretty good indication that you are coming to the point of ego transcendence for that particular issue. In other words, that is one of the things that you have let go of. You remember our verses up here? All the things that are, forgetting those things which are behind. No man putting his hand to the plow looking back. Forget thine own people. Hating, not choosing your father, mother, wife, children, brothers, sisters. Lay aside every weight and the sin which doth so easily beset us. So practice these things. When somebody can challenge your version of election or reprobation or regeneration, and you genuinely do not feel the need to defend or respond, you don't break out into a sweat, you don't feel a little weird feeling in your stomach, you don't feel the need to debate or destroy the person, you don't feel any of that, but you're genuinely curious, that's what you want to strive for.